I have another one here, and I wanted to post this. This was just a couple of tweets that came out, and it was about um, ESPN this last week. And first off, it was a reminder: ESPN is calling this the most expensive women's Final Four production they've ever done. ESPN, by the way, is not beholden to equity reports, Title IX, etc. They're doing this because it's a good business decision. And up here, the March Madness, they said a national championship sellout for the women's national championship game, South Carolina against UConn, 18,304 in attendance. And I should make a point of saying, and somewhere I have it here, Nebraska, Wisconsin drew 18,755 for the volleyball final this year. And one of the reasons we bring that up, Boomer, who of course was trying to mask himself as Jumbo Steam earlier with his question, but Boomer, he's made this statement a number of times with volleyball, like, why the hell are television networks not getting behind promoting this? And I remember when Nebraska played Texas for the national championship, I think it was in 2016, it was on ESPN2 so that ESPN1 could be showing like the Woolen Bullweeder bowl game between like two no-name teams. It was like the first of 40 bowls. And it's like, how are you ever going to build a sport if you keep putting it on ESPN Plus or something that you have to stream? And, I live in Roca, so, I have like one internet option and it's not very good. So it's like, how are you going to build a sport? And right there, that tweet right here or this slide shows it, that they put some money into it. They're actually going to, produce this thing. They're going, and Kai, maybe I'll ask you this, since you've worked it with, in the industry, you put some resources to it, you promote it, and the product sells itself. I mean, you see that in those stats there with the basketball and the volleyball numbers that they've had.
Yeah, when you first put that tweet up, I hadn't seen it yet, but I felt like it's a little bit misleading because when I worked at ESPN, I worked on the women's March Madness tournament, and they have had the tournament for a long time, and they have done a lot in that realm. I think a lot of it is because they don't have the men's tournament, but at the same time, that has been a priority for them for a while. So I understand what you're saying, but I also feel like the volleyball being on ESPN2, that's not okay. I don't know why they do that. I think volleyball, in a sense, people can get behind it more than women's basketball, because I think volleyball is more of a women's sport. But I don't know. It's super interesting why they don't provide more resources for other sports besides women's college basketball.
Do you see it changing there, though? I mean, was this a step in the right direction this year, you think, or is it?
Well, like, what exactly are they doing different? Just spending more money?
I think they're actively promoting it finally.
But they've always had the tournament. So when I was working on it, I felt like we were promoting it, but maybe it's in a different way. Sometimes I think that, like, people can, I don't know, it can be misleading in the way people present things. But I would be curious to know, like, what's different from last year and previous years. Maybe they just made a sick graphic and it sold out sooner, and who knows?
Mm-hmm. So wasn't this the first year that the label March Madness got to be used for the women's tournament?
Yes.
That could play into it too.
And I know when I was working there, that's all a money thing. That's just like because of the networks. It's not necessarily because like men versus women, because you couldn't even say March Madness like in a Sports Center read. So even if you were talking about Kentucky losing, you couldn't say March Madness. You had to say in the NCAA tournament. So, but that's interesting that you can say it now.
Yeah, this was the first year they also called the women's tournament March Madness. Like, it wasn't referred to that before this year as March Madness. So, yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things where, like, how do you grow the sport, get more viewers, earn more revenue if you're not promoting it, if you're not, like, seeking these out and trying to grow it? Like, because people are like, oh, well, they don't put it on because it doesn't make enough money. How will it ever put it on. People want to watch volleyball. People want to watch softball.
Well, and I
And
want to
see the
go
games on TV.
on a rant with that too. Like even Nebraska, where volleyball is huge, I have a terrible time trying to find a volleyball shirt to wear. And maybe there are more in stores in Lincoln, but online there is a whole bunch of nothing. And if I do find something, it's not Adidas, it's just some knockoff graphic stuff, which, you know, is cute and creative, but why isn't Adidas putting money behind that when it's so huge and such a long sellout for Nebraska? And you know, we out of anybody are going to be giving money to that.
My dad emailed John Cook once to get a Nebraska volleyball shirt.
Did he get one?
That's awesome.
No, I don't. Well, actually, I'll have to follow up with him. He told me though. He's like, I don't know. Don't ask me how he found it, like his email even. But
I have an ad.unl. It's fine.
yes.
Speaking of emailing John Cook, which is it's very random that I have
very
a story about this,
specific,
but yeah, my daughter has always wanted to be like a ball girl, you know, at the volleyball game, gives the ball back.
Same.
And right, yeah, I'm like, hey, me too. But my uncle works for the university, not with the athletic department in any capacity, any way, shape, form at all. And he's like, I'll try to email John Cook. And it was right before they were playing Texas this year in the tournament. And he freaking answered. And I was like, what is he doing on his phone right before this game? Answering your freaking email. I'm like, if
Because
they
he's
lose,
an angel.
this is
Because
your
he's
fault.
amazing.
Yes, he
Yes.
is. He is. He's like,
John
Well
Cook can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
maybe get back to me in the summer. Okay.
So I don't know if anybody saw this. This was yesterday. Danny Busboom Kelly tweeted something out. So speaking kind of like television and how we promote women's sports. I'm just going to read it. Sorry. It says, I watched women's basketball captivate a fan base year after year. And this year I saw firsthand how fast volleyball can do the same. Only 19% of our tournament was televised in 2021. Volleyball is ready to burst, and we need more room to showcase our sport and the amazing athletes that play it. And so
Absolutely.
that like resonated a lot with me as a volleyball fan, right? And as a loving, especially at Nebraska, our women's sports, because we are a women's sports state now. And it just blew my mind that only like I had to think back and be like, oh, right. No, I had to pay for a subscription for ESPN Plus to watch the early rounds of the tournament when there were no other sports happening.
Yep.
Yep. What else is being shown on ESPN that you can't show? You have like 12 different ESPN channels that I can get for free with my ESPN subscription that I don't have to pay extra to see. And like, I get it. It's first rounds. It's colleges you've never heard of. It's probably games that aren't that exciting, but you get schools that this is the first time they've ever made it into a tournament and they get to play in Lincoln. And it's like, why not promote that and grow it? There are so many fans of volleyball who are paying for it. It just blows my mind.
Abby, that's a wonderful point. And you know, men's basketball, every single game's on.
Yeah.
And volleyball, they're not. I went out to Colorado to watch the first two rounds of the March Madness. Well, guess what? On Friday, we went to a sports book where, you know, you have 100 TVs and it's where all the sports betting's going on out there in Colorado. And Nebraska is playing Gonzaga in women's basketball first round. Can't find it. It's not televised. How do you build I guess that's the question. How do you build the sport if you're never going to show it?
And I love what Nebraska Public Media is doing, or I might have the name wrong now, but I feel like them broadcasting the volleyball games and a lot of the baseball games and stuff like that is just doing so much good for those sports in Nebraska. And that's not your typical thing that you think of public media doing, but it's what Nebraskans want. And it just produces such good vibes because then people can watch the games. I'm jealous because I can't get those here in Montana. Outside the broadcast, even for like internet options and stuff. But
yeah,
I love how they're doing that for the women's sports.
Yeah. And Amy, I just watched a thing on the Nebraska Public Network, and they were talking about volleyball in the state and how they've grown it. And you've seen Creighton volleyball be really good now, and Nebraska volleyball. And if girls can't make it onto one of those two teams, they end up playing at other power schools. I mean, volleyball's so big in the state. And I think to your point there, what what our local media has done, because there's such a just a fever for anything Husker. My goodness, I'm watching bowling.
Yeah.
I'm watching bowling. We're
Bowling is
blue
so
blood in
fun
bowling.
though.
It
They're
is.
so fun to watch.
Winning's fun.
Winning
It
is
is.
fun.
Mhm.
And they're great girls. They had a tournament. Sorry, I'm gonna hijack. They had a tournament down here in St. Louis in February or something, and like 3 of our alumni group were like, "We'll go support them. It'll be fine. Maybe nobody will show up." There were so many people there because
Awesome.
their families and their friends travel to go
'Cause we
see them.
travel.
Like,
Absolutely.
it made
We're
me
Nebraska.
so happy, and it was like, and it's fun. I learned a lot about competitive bowling and all the things that are in it, and what makes our team so good. And it's like, oh my god, why does anybody make fun of us for being a bowling team? Bowling is hard.
It's a sport too.
It
But
is.
no, like we have such a like Nebraskans are such good fans, and we have such a hunger right now for winning. Like even when we were starting to do well at the end of the Nebraska ball season, like all of a sudden everybody wanted to jump on and just be excited about something, because we have few times during this time of year to be excited, and it was great to have that instant energy for it.
We have few times to be excited about men's sports. Think
Yes,
of what women's
yes,
sports are doing
yes.
right now. Think
That
of
is
what
that.
volleyball's done. Think
Yeah.
about what women's basketball did, and think of what softball's doing right
What
now.
if
Think of
softball
bowling.
team's
It's
like
amazing.
I think our softball team's on like a 10-win streak right now.
Oh, wow.
They won 2 of the 3 games by like whatever the run rule is against Rutgers. Like, why are we not talking about the fact that the women's softball team is like destroying people?
There's a run rule in softball.
I
Yeah.
think that, yeah. And
Yeah,
What did they call it? The mercy rule? Is that what they
yeah,
still
I
call it?
It's, yeah,
call it
yeah.
run rule,
It's
but
just a
yeah.
run rule. Billy Andrews is murdering softballs so often that people are just walking her because no one wants to pitch to her anymore.
No way.
It's like, yeah, all the time.
so good.
Right.
They're all
Yeah.
so good. It's such
So
a
Barry
fun-
Bonds was the Billy Andrews of Major League Baseball.
Yeah,
Well played.
See what I
exactly.
did?